Western Conference Finals. And right before we do, feel free to leave any comments in the chat feature. We'll get those answered towards the end of the show, being this will be a fairly short one. And also love it if you'd head over to Twitter and give us a follow at BetUSTV. We'll have tons of content and videos from all of the various BetUS shows. All right, in San Francisco tonight, Warriors are laying 5.5. Total here is 214. This is the first time the Mavs are back in the Western Conference Finals since 2011. They're coming off that Game 7 beatdown over the Suns, the best team in the league. Quite an impressive performance, but now they got their work cut out for them. Golden State Warriors, who have been here before, they know the drill. Josh, what do you like in this game?
Yeah, I like the Warriors in this game. I don't know if I necessarily like them in the series, but I do like them in a Game 1 environment here at home where Dallas, like you said, coming off a road Game 7 and then having to back up with a road Game 1 is a really difficult dynamic to have to handle in the playoffs, with limited sort of rest in between there as well. The stylistic matchup as well that the Warriors present versus what Phoenix presented is going to take some adjustment, and it's exactly what I sort of spoke about with the Boston-Miami series, where Boston's going to need to adjust to playing a completely different defense to what they did against Milwaukee. The Mavericks facing a similar proposition, except on the other end of the floor, where it comes to having to face an entirely different offense, one that is a lot more frenetic, if you will. They play with a lot more pace and energy. There is a lot more off-ball movement, and that's going to take time to sort of get used to. That's not to say that they won't adjust. I think, that defense we know is very, very good, and I think that they will be able to figure things out, at least at that end of the floor eventually. But to start off, I think they might be caught out a little bit, like I said, in a tough environment and in a tough setups and situation where they're having to sort of deal with a very sort of guard-heavy rotation that, like I said, is extremely active off the ball. The ball movement basically doesn't stop. They're not going to be facing the same sort of sets and offensive schemes in those pick-and-roll situations. So it's going to take a lot, I think, for Dallas to get used to, and a lot of the players, especially outside of Luka offensively, need to try and figure things out as well, because I think the Warriors are going to be more committed to closing out on the perimeter than what the Suns were. And if they are, then, again, it's a little bit of an adjustment period there as well. It's a matter of what can we do then to break down the Warriors' defense. So Luka is always going to be Luka. He's going to be, arguably unguardable to an extent, in the same way Giannis was last series. You're going to just have to live with what you get, I guess, in that regard. I do think Andrew Wiggins will do a better job than a lot of people are giving him credit for. I think Wiggins is a very underrated, underutilized player. Maybe not underutilized, but certainly underrated and unrecognized at that end of the floor. And this is, if you will, his moment to shine. So they do have someone, I think, that can match up with him to an extent. But yeah, it's more so a case of, is everyone else going to be able to figure out their roles in a situation like this? I just don't think so. So I'm going to lay the points with the Warriors for Game 1. And, we'll see where it takes us for the rest of the series. But for this particular one, I think the home side should be able to get the job done.
I lean that same way. Warriors -5. I don't have an official play in this game at all. I mean, I like the rest advantage for the Warriors and the way they performed in Game 1 of series. They're 20-2 straight up, dating all the way back to 2015. Now, that's not to say they cover in all of those, but they performed pretty well in a Game 1. And the Mavericks, they've played 13 of 14 possible games during the playoffs so far. So coming into this one with very little rest, off of a Game 7, and they've had their work cut out for them this entire playoff series. That being said, I'm not sure I want to bet against the Mavericks right now. They have a lot of momentum coming in from that huge win. So this one, I can make cases for both sides, and so I'm just going to stay off of it completely today. But Chris, you have a case for the other side, and that is the Mavericks.
I do. I agree with a lot of stuff that Josh just said, too. I guess I'm just taking the opposite angle here. I think it might be a bigger adjustment for the Warriors, coming off those games against Denver, who really wasn't playing the same brand of defense that we saw in the first half of the season, and then going against the Memphis Grizzlies, who, they love to fly up and down the floor. So we saw a lot of inflated totals in both of those series. Some of the totals dropped pretty low, but the pace was high. A lot of that, was because of, a lot of the mistakes that both teams made, especially there in, I believe, Game 6. That was just atrocious basketball, but or Game 5. But, I think it's going to be a big adjustment for the Warriors. I mean, this is a Dallas Mavericks team who they know who they are. It really feels that way at this point. And maybe that's a lot of Jason Kidd. Maybe it's just the team growth and all them coming together. But this is a methodical team that will lull you to sleep. They like to go nice and slow. And there's like one or two players on this team who don't shoot threes. I mean, all their biggest can shoot from the outside. And when they get going, I've said it before on the show, really all Luka needs is that if Luka's doing Luka's thing, the Mavericks just need two or three other guys to produce at a decent level, and that's a very dangerous team. Because when they're making their shots from the perimeter, right, they're able to go back into their half-court defense and really kind of control the game and slow down the whole game. That's what we saw them do immediately in Game 7 against the Suns. I think they could have a lot of success against the Warriors, too. One thing I've noticed from the Warriors as well, their pace has kind of been all over the place. It's one of those teams where, kind of like the Heat last night, they're sort of happy to follow the pace of the other team. If they follow the pace of Dallas, I don't think that's a good thing for the Warriors. They need to try to play that small ball, run fast, be, a bunch of pesty, guards. I mean, this series is going to be won by the guards, right? Because the centers, the bigs, for both of these teams, there's not really any exceptional offensive talent. Of course, you have Draymond Green, but I mean, as you've seen, teams are letting him shoot. They're not too worried about that. Lastly, just matchup-wise, if they put Draymond on Luka, that's probably what they should do. But then it's going to free up some of those other big guys, like a Reggie Bullock, like a Dorian Finney-Smith, to just destroy you from the outside and to get some open shots on the perimeter. Now, I'm not saying that the other Warriors can't cover them, but I like those matchups better than I do against Draymond Green. If Luka faces anyone else other than Draymond Green, I think that we can see him body those Warriors guards who are going to be a little bit undersized in this game against the Mavericks. And we've seen the kind of success that Luka can have when he's able to body guards like, CP3, et cetera. He can really control the entire game. So a lot of momentum coming for the Mavericks. I kind of compare them to the 2007 New York Giants, who nobody believed in, and they snuck into the playoffs, but they ended up beating the undefeated Patriots. I don't know if the Mavericks are going to do all that, but I think that they're going to kind of ride this wave too a little bit, right? Sometimes when you play on the road as a team over and over again too, it's kind of like that road warrior mentality. To win that Game 7 on the road was impressive. I don't know if it's going to bother them as much as we think. Hopefully, they look a lot like the Suns or the Celtics in the first half yesterday, and not like the Celtics in the second half. But I think if Dallas can control the pace of this game, which I think that they can have a big time effect on it, then I like them to keep it close. We also see that first quarter total rising and rising, which is, fair, right? Because the Warriors are the favorites, so they're expecting the totals to probably rise because of that. But I think Dallas is going to try to take command like they did against the Suns very early in this one. So I like the first quarter under to fly, or the first quarter total to fly under as well.
Jason Kidd, after that win against the Suns in Game 7, for anyone who saw the video circulating on Twitter of him saying, "Where are we right now? We did this on the road. Where did we close out the Utah series? On the road. We've had success on the road. I guess in that Utah series, not so much in the Sun series other than that Game 7, but they're comfortable playing on the road. It seems like they don't mind that. They know they're the underdogs going into all these series. I mean, going up against Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and you have Steph and Clay. And, I mean, Luka is a phenomenal talent, but I don't know. For some reason, he doesn't carry the same weight, I don't think, as a full, complete Warriors team, just because his supporting cast isn't quite the same as the Warriors or the Suns. Chris, in terms of the under for the first quarter you're taking, again, I have no plays in this one because I can't figure things out today with kind of both directions that I'm leaning. Because if either of these teams gets hot behind the arc, I mean, you mentioned that Dallas can knock down shots like no other. We saw that in the last couple series, and we know what the Warriors can do. So, Josh, is there a chance that this one soars way over 214?
There's a chance for sure. I mean, just based on the fact that I think, the Warriors, particularly, they're going to be able to successfully trudge out that small ball lineup. And when they do, obviously the pace immediately picks up. And if Dallas doesn't necessarily show resistance to it and tries to match it to an extent, we're talking some pretty large chunks of minutes of play, I think, in this game where you're going to get a lot of up and down basketball and it's going to feel like the regular season at times. So, yeah, it's a hard one to gauge, I think, that total and that number right now until we get an idea of how these sides are going to match up stylistically and who's going to, for the majority anyway, control pace. Even if the Mavericks are successful to an extent, the Warriors turn the ball over more than any other team left in the playoffs, more than any team going into the playoffs as well in terms of regularity. If you're letting teams play in transition like that, it doesn't matter how slow they play in half-court sets. They're always going to be able to score efficiently, effectively, and quickly. So, yeah, it's a tough one to make 2 cents of. My number comes out at 211.5, but I'm probably being a little bit conservative there as well in some heavy adjustments to get to that point. So I lean under. I just don't say it with a ton of confidence.
All right. Well, Chris playing the under first quarter, and the Mavs, Josh, is playing the Warriors tonight. Competing narratives. I like it.